Continuation of Chapter 11. The Suppression and Leveling of the Classes. Quote, Indeed, the Sion proposes to raise up and re-educate the working class, but in this respect the principles of Catholic doctrine have been defined, and this history of Christian civilization bears witness to their beneficent fruitfulness. Our predecessor of happy memory reaffirmed them in masterly documents, and all Catholics dealing with social questions have the duty to study them and to keep them in mind. He taught, among other things, that, quote, Christian democracy must preserve the diversity of classes, which is assuredly the attribute of a soundly constituted state, and it must seek to give human society the form and character which God, its author, has imparted to it. End quote. Our predecessor denounced, quote, a certain democracy which goes so far in wickedness as to place sovereignty in the people and aims at the suppression of classes and their leveling down. End quote. Yet, this is what the perpetrators of the false doctrine seek, the suppression and leveling of the classes. St. Pius X recalls the principles that Leo XIII had denounced. Quote, At the same time, Leo XIII laid down for Catholics a program of action, the only program capable of putting society back onto its centuries-old Christian basis. But what have the leaders of the Sion done? Not only have they adopted a program and teaching different from that of Leo XIII, but they have openly rejected the program laid out by Leo XIII on the essential principles of society. They place authority in the people, or gradually suppress it and strive, as their ideal, to effect the leveling down of the classes. In opposition to Catholic doctrine, therefore, are proceeding towards a condemned ideal. End quote. Once again, we touch upon the principle of equality. What Leo XIII often denounced in his encyclicals, as we have already seen, were the modern principles that are set on imposing equality. That is to say, leveling, equal possession of the goods of this world, of means, of riches, etc. The popes have always reiterated that this equality is inexistent. There is equality of men before God. Yes, we are all equal before God. But as for temporal equality, the equality of possessions and of natural faculties, this is not so. It does not exist. And if it does not exist, it is in the nature of men, which means that God wanted it that way. And if the good God wanted it so, it is for the sake of good and not evil. How can it be for the good? Because men are made to live in society and to communicate to others the talents and the goods they possess. The one who is more intelligent must communicate the goods of his understanding to others. This is normal. This also concerns the generations. Those who possess knowledge must communicate it to those who are ignorant and educate the youth, etc. The rich practice charity by communicating some of their goods to the needy. It is by the intercommunication of the different goods each possesses that charity is manifested. All those who work are useful to society. What kind of cities would we be living in if there were no one to sweep the streets? The humblest services are useful to society, and everyone has a place, his place. To desire the absolute leveling of society is ridiculous. Quote, "We know well that they flatter themselves with the idea of raising human dignity and the discredited condition of the working class. We know that they wish to render just and perfect the labor laws and the relations between employers and employees, thus causing a more complete justice and a greater measure of charity to prevail upon earth, and causing also a profound and fruitful transformation in society, by which mankind would make an undreamt of progress. Certainly, we do not blame these efforts. They would be excellent in every respect if the Sionists did not forget that a person's progress consists in developing his natural abilities by fresh motivations to operate within the frame of, and in conformity with, the laws of human nature. But, on the contrary, by ignoring the laws governing human nature and by breaking the bonds within which they operate, the human person is led not towards progress, but towards death." End quote. The frame in question is, precisely, the social framework. Not everyone can be a worker or employee. Not everyone can be a company owner. Everyone has his place in society, and the places can change according to the aptitudes, the intelligence, and the know-how of each one. Someone who was an employee becomes a low-level manager, and, if he succeeds well, a high-ranking one. This is normal. A natural selection takes place in society when justice is observed. All this is willed by God. Quote, "This, nevertheless, is what they want to do with human society. They dream of a future city built on different principles, and they dare to proclaim these more fruitful and more beneficial than the principles upon which the present Christian city rests." End quote. Then the Pope writes this very forceful passage. Quote, "No, venerable brethren, we must repeat with the utmost energy in these times of social and intellectual anarchy, when everyone takes it upon himself to teach as a teacher and lawmaker. The city cannot be built otherwise than as God has built it. Society cannot be set up unless the Church lays the foundations and supervises the work. No, civilization is not something yet to be found, nor is the new city to be built on hazy notions. It has been in existence and still is. It is Christian civilization. It is the Catholic city." End quote. It is for this reason that those who founded the Cité Catholique chose this expression formulated by Pius X. Quote, "It has only to be set up and restored continually against the unremitting attacks of insane dreamers, rebels, and miscreants. Omnia instaurare in Christo." End quote. It is really simple, and yet it is all the more difficult to demystify the nefarious action of these false ideologues, because they conceal their real agenda by calling for popular reforms. They say that they want social justice. They use the language the Church has always used in expressing her social doctrine. But as their ideas are different, in their mouths the words have a different meaning. Their language is inspired by liberal ideas, which impart a revolutionary meaning to the words liberty, equality, and fraternity.